Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Hinterland's One Shot, episode 36.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. We are in a 2-week schedule now. Notice that?
I think it's been longer than that.
A whopping 2 episodes a month. That's how good we are at this.
Well, we've been busy.
Hate us. Our fans hate us. They have abandoned us. They're gone. All the fans are gone. Today we're doing more news with more notes, but we have a couple of really annoying local news bits.
A lot's happened. A lot has happened.
Yeah, before this we didn't have any riots. That's all happened, right? Our last podcast didn't have any riot news. No, it did. It did.
Did it?
Yeah, it did. It had just happened. It was like 4 days after the start of the thing. We did one like last week.
Did we? Okay, my sense of time is just all out of whack.
Yeah, I know. Mine too. So recently we've had 2 companies in town selling a certain blueberry ice cream. Want to talk about that?
A certain 4-letter word.
Yeah.
Ice cream.
It's called F the Police ice cream.
White supremacy.
Yeah.
Apparently they think they're really clever and edgy. And I was pleased to see that when somebody posted a thing about it on the community page, like, ha ha ha, isn't this so cool? The only reaction they had, at the time at least, was somebody just fuming. And what is nice is that I've seen a lot of support for our local police department who, as far as I know, they've never had any problems. There's a lot of people griping about them, but let's be honest, we've got a town full of drug addicts and wife beaters.
Anybody who hates the police has, at one point in their life, had a run-in with the police and felt like it wasn't justified.
Yeah.
I have never had a run-in with the police except for, like, a speeding ticket. You know? I've gotten to...
I'm a little mad about a couple parking tickets I got that I felt were justified.
Yes, but it's not like you're going to go out and say the police are the enemy of the people and wham. You're just going to be unhappy with your parking ticket. Like, whoopee, they're usually $13 or whatever. Yeah.
Well, so somebody went out by the highway today, apparently with a bunch of signs saying, hey, we love you and we support you guys. But you told me, was it you who told me, or did I see it? That a local pizza place that we honestly don't like because let's be honest, their pizza's garbage.
Yeah, it's greasy.
It's not great.
Yeah.
But it's like the favorite cheap pizza in town. And I guess they, for a day, decided that they were gonna just sell pizza for $1, like large pizzas for $1.
They were mediums.
Were they?
I believe they're mediums, but still.
$1 pizza.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mediums normally like $8
and
or
first
something.
responders, and their message is, "Hey, we support you guys. Nothing else." Like,
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's nice that some people are butting up against all the heavy duty virtue signaling. Thank you for coughing.
I was trying to signal to you that I was going to lean out and cough,
but
my word. Hopefully I got away from the mic.
Yeah, it's nice to see some people, a small amount of people, butting up against all this heavy duty virtue signaling that the whole world seems to be doing. I'm so sick of it. I'm so over people going out there and making sure they know what side you're on.
That's so much bootlicking and ass kissing.
It really is. It's the worst. And for instance, I was in a small town nearby the other day. I want to say on the list of towns, Alaska has a certain list of towns by population. It's way down the list. Mm-hmm. It's a small town. There was like 4 or 5 dumb-looking teenage girls, white teenage girls, standing on a corner in this little town in the middle of nowhere with their signs, their Black Lives Matter support signs. Are you kidding me? Just get over it.
Well, apparently we've had a number of rallies here. I only knew about one, but apparently there have been quite a number. I don't know if they're like every weekend or something. But at one of them, and I think I mentioned this last podcast, somebody was there with the police support white supremacy.
Oh, yes. Every single one of them. All 900,000 of them.
Most of the officers in our town, I've heard, are Native.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the police chief is Native. And a woman from one of our conservative groups, who's the administrator, she's Native. I think she has referred to herself as an elder, in fact. And she herself said that there's basically no racial problems with the police in this town, or at least there haven't been for a long time. But it's not in our notes. But the other day there was a city council meeting over Zoom because, they can't get together and actually talk in person because scary COVID still.
Yes, the pandemic.
But a number of virtue signalers on the city council decided to start demanding to see the police department's rules on use of force. And the police chief said, look, so we're not going to tell you this right now because it's, I don't know.
I can see it as being a security risk.
Yeah, that was the word I was trying to look for. But then they started just demanding it, and then apparently they started getting messages from constituents, like, on the live stream saying, we want to see a printout of this too. So today, and I can't decide if it's caving or if it was a smart move, they decided to come out with a list of explanations of how use of force is used and what they do and what they don't do and what their training is. And it was in response to this stupid list of like 8 demands, most of which the police department already does. Like, we want you to all have body cameras. They do all have body cameras.
Yeah, we want you to have
racial sensitivity training.
Yeah, racial sensitivity
they
training.
already have sensitivity training.
Absolutely. It's a police department. Guaranteed they have it.
The police department in a town with minorities.
Yeah.
So, we've got an increasing black population here, I've noticed.
Yeah.
So apparently we have a Black Lives Matter chapter here, which I guess shouldn't be surprising, but I've been seeing a lot of those black fist in the air photos popping up. In fact, the other day I looked out the window and I saw this car drive by and I just saw the black fist. I was like, oh, give me a break.
On the bumper sticker or something?
Yeah, in somebody's window.
Dumb.
So...
They were probably white people.
Yeah, probably. Just... I don't know. It's so frustrating. And I've seen so much of it from people that we've considered friends.
Yeah.
And
I've seen an awful lot of white people who don't hang out with black people. You're in Southeast Alaska.
You don't really hang out with black people.
There's not a lot of black people. And if there are, those people generally are not that racist. Because they just hang out with a bunch of white people anyway. They don't have...
I'm pretty sure our neighbor's racist. I'm pretty sure.
Well, with that flag on her deck.
Yeah.
Anyway, you derailed my thought.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's gone. My thought's gone.
Oh, okay. Well, we were talking about white people in town not hanging out with a lot. It's always the self-hating whites, right?
Yeah.
It's not the people who have self-confidence, who actually love their families, want to have families.
Oh, I was going to say, it seems to me that a ton of people who are not black they're believing the narrative that it's their fault.
Mm-hmm.
It's systemic racism. But you know what? It's not their fault. It's the black community's fault that they have these problems. They need to look internally for whatever problems they're blaming white people for. They often, most of the time, I would say, they need to look internally, and they're not. They're just blaming whites. And then whites are blaming whites, and it's kind of screwed up.
I think to a certain extent, for a certain period of time, you could blame the government for the policies they put in place.
Sure.
But after a certain point, the government doesn't even need to... Sorry, I keep getting a tickle in my throat. The government doesn't even need to push these things or offer these things because the culture...
It's self-perpetuating.
Yeah, it's self-perpetuating, How many women just keep having babies with different men because they get those paychecks,
It's true.
So I don't know. And also you notice, and this has been pointed out many times over the last few months, all these places that are having problems, they're all Democrat regions.
Yes.
These things aren't happening in places run by Republicans. Not to say Republicans are perfect, but...
It sure seems like it's not.
You know, it just... If everything would be perfect, if the world was run by black people, then how come these places that have black sheriffs, black mayors, city council members, attorney generals, like all these things that they say they want that will fix the world, they have them and they're burning their crap to the ground.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem like it's the worldview that sides with the democratic ideology.
Yeah,
that is in the end doing the damage, and that could go for a white community as well. It's not intrinsic to blacks. It's intrinsic to the ideologies inherent with the Democrat mind frame.
Well, unfortunately, only one demographic is having these problems.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it's unfortunate to say, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
There's something I was going to add, and I can't recall what it was now.
Anyway, let's move on. So we talked about that We Demand flyer, right?
A little bit. We didn't talk about what was in it. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it was full of garbage.
And somebody tried to compare it to the people demanding their full PFD. Like, look at all these people who demand their full PFD every year. Now they don't like it when people make other demands. It's not even sort of the same thing. It really isn't.
Yeah, they were talking about one of the demands is having a counselor in the schools that is black.
For a safe zone.
Like, specifically a counselor that is black and knows what they're going through.
Yeah, so a little girl gets her dreadlocks made fun of, or her afro, and she goes and cries to the school counselor who
is black.
Yeah.
He is specifically hired because he's black.
Or she.
Or she, yeah.
Because, black women are magic. They're special.
Which seems a little racist to hire anybody based on their skin color, right?
It's only racist
instead of
when it's white
their
people.
Merits.
Only racist when it's white people.
Right, it's only racist when it's white people. That's true, yeah.
Speaking of which, maybe not to jump ahead, but have you noticed in the news, it seems like whenever police officers are sent into situations to smooth things over, they've been sending minorities and women.
Yeah, that happens all the time. So, let's move on. Oh, yes, more local. We'll do the last local bit. Coffee shop in Fairbanks, Alaska, which is not here.
Not near us at all.
It's not near us at all. It's way up north. Ended up writing a note on, right? They sold a burrito. Is that how it goes?
So
somebody bought a burrito from them.
Thing. A regular customer who's never had a problem.
Right, they go there often.
Yeah. He had a big Trump 2020 sign in the back of his truck. He might have been wearing a hat, I don't know, but he pulled up, ordered his burrito and his coffee, didn't seem to have a problem, but when he opened the burrito, the coffee girl had apparently taken a red Sharpie written on the inside of the foil and rolled it back up. And I think it might have been the owner. I don't know that for certain, but one article I read suggested that. So this red Sharpie ink leaked all over his food, so he tossed it after taking a picture, and then he also tossed the coffee because he didn't think it was safe, and I would have too.
Didn't know that it squirted Ipecac in his coffee.
Yeah, I've had people mess with my food before when I worked at a place. I had no idea who had written inside my box, so I tossed it. It freaked me out.
And for anyone who doesn't know what syrup of Ipecac is it's a purgative.
Ugh.
It's something they don't do it anymore, but the medics used to give it to people who have ingested poison. It forces you to throw up violently.
Yeah.
Who knows if that's in your coffee? You can still get it.
Yeah. So apparently, I don't know if he reached out to the shop first or if he reached out to the news first, but apparently the owner or barista, whoever had done it, decided to take a picture of the foil and what they'd written before they actually rolled up his food. They took a picture and they put it on Snapchat or something.
Oh, wow. Like them bragging. Like, look at me. Look at my virtue.
Yeah.
Let me signal it for you.
I think what it said was something like, I saw your sign in your hat. Don't ever come back. Or I think it might have said F you racist or something like that, or white supremacist. So they messed with his food. Like, that stuff's toxic.
I wouldn't want to eat Sharpie.
No. And who knows what they did to his coffee. And then they doubled down. Like, the shop owner, like, didn't take it back, didn't apologize. And apparently, then the next day or the next week or something, they put up a whole bunch of Black Lives Matter rainbow puke crap all over their shop. And, they started to get a whole bunch of business because of it.
Oh, yeah, business is booming now because everyone wants to signal their virtue. I'm so tired of virtue signaling.
And here I was thinking that up north was supposed to be more conservative than us Southeasters, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just, the virtue signaling has gotten to disgusting heights.
Yeah, it's starting to drive me crazy. To the effect that, and this isn't, this is just coming out of my mind, but I saw a Trump from President Trump the other day, which, say what you will about him, I think he's done a lot of good things while in office. And there's things that I wish he would do that he probably won't do, and that bothers me. I won't talk about those. But something that really, really irked me the other day is that he tweeted about how, I just hired such and such to head this division from the military, the first African American to do the job. Here's my virtue, just hanging out there for everybody to look at, even the president, who's supposed to be this guy who doesn't cave to the culture. That's kind of what he's put himself out there as, is caving to the culture of saying, look, I hire black people too. And it's like, come on, I'm so tired of this.
That's how I feel every time somebody says, look, black unemployment. Which, I mean, yeah, it's great. Unemployment should be down for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone. But the fact that they keep saying black unemployment just kind of, it doesn't draw attention to the fact that, hey, there's a lot of other ethnicities that are in poverty too.
What about white unemployment?
Asian
unemployment. Yeah, well, they're a bunch of eggheads, apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
so they always get the good jobs, right?
Yes, we're generalizing. Get your panties out of a twist. But it just, we're not racist, but it's coming to a point where people need to start, just grow a thick spine.
Yeah.
And stop saying, I'm sorry for something you didn't do.
Yeah, and it's true, hearing the president, and specifically the president and his cabinet constantly harping on the black unemployment, it just drives a wedge between blacks and whites still. You know what I mean? Because you're always hearing it. You're always hearing black. Like, what happened to the American citizens? Yeah. We're not just American citizens anymore. We're divided. They're dividing us with their language. And the current administration is to blame for that because they do it too. They do it just as much as the other side, it seems like. They're always talking about the black this and the black that, when why not like everyone? Why not just unemployment in general? Who cares about these demographics so much? That's what's dividing everyone is the conversation, you know?
I think it's the inevitability of allowing different cultures to rise up in what was supposed to be a unified nation.
Well, yes, but you're going to get, even amongst the white demographic, you have different cultures. That just is natural for people to do.
It's natural, but to a certain extent, most other cultures, except for Asians, and probably a few others in like the big cities, I don't know. I mean, I haven't traveled extensively, but it seems to me, for the most part, white people seem to try and blend in a little bit more, Yeah. It seems like the European cultures, even people who've come over in the last few generations, they tend to fit in better.
Yeah.
My great-grandparents came over. I don't think my great-grandma ever spoke a word of English, but the kids had to. They had to learn English, and they had to speak English. And I grew up in a town that was very, very rooted in its Norwegian culture.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like people were going around speaking Norwegian and insisting on, traditions and that sort of thing. We were American.
Yeah.
And I think there's a big problem in that, you have your little traditions, but don't set up microcosms of, things that should be left behind. Like, I don't know, poor family culture.
Poor family culture. Well, that's subjective, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I shared an article the other day on Facebook about how the biggest problem in the black community is fatherlessness. Only one person said something.
Yeah.
I think I just heard the toddler talking in his sleep.
Yep. Maybe we should pause for just a minute to make sure he's going to go back to sleep. Okay, we're back. You were talking about how you posted about fatherless homes in the black community. Only one person said anything. Mm-hmm. Did they actually say something or just hit like?
No, it was that guy who made the Facebook page, Christian Conservatives.
Oh, okay.
He said something. I don't remember what. But did you see the Vincent James video the other day talking about how apparently on their website, Black Lives Matter has stated specifically that they don't care about fathers and they want to dismantle the family unit.
Oh, wow. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you might not have been out of bed yet, but yeah, it could not be more plain in this culture that white people are garbage, white men are worse garbage, and black women are just special.
Yeah, unless you set yourself up as an ally, and then you...
Well, and then you can lick the boots.
Yeah, you grovel, and you get on your knees, and you say all the right buzzwords, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, just in the last few weeks, there's been a lot of really disturbing images. One of the worst I saw was a video of a white police officer lying on his stomach with his hands behind his back.
That's absurd.
Just to apologize or something. I don't know.
It's weak. People are weak.
Oh, it's so much weakness.
Okay, moving on. Kind of beat that one to death. It's been on our minds a lot. Let's see.
Were you going to mention the video that Hagen was talking about the other day, talking about the apparent rise in witchcraft in the black community?
No, that's
places?
not in the notes.
Okay, maybe next podcast.
Yeah, we'll do a little more digging on that one. Contact tracing, that's in the notes multiple times. You have anything to say about that?
Contact tracing? Just that I think it's going to be horribly invasive, and the problem is that you don't even have to be the one to say, hey, I think I might have been exposed to somebody. All it takes is your well-intentioned friend that you saw the other day testing positive, or interacting with somebody tested positive, going, oh, yeah, so my friend so-and-so was over the other day. You better call them. Here's their phone number. The next thing you know, well, you've been exposed. You need to stay home for the next 14 days, and we're going to take your kids and put them with this family member you don't really know all that well, just to keep them safe.
Yeah, it's jacked up.
Like, I think it's going to...
So I watched a little video on the technology. Well, I watched a different video that had a video in it, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
And they were talking about the technology that Google and Apple and Microsoft and all these companies are like working together to develop for contact tracing. And somebody was saying that, here's a conspiracy theory for you. Somebody was saying that the social distancing thing,
6 feet.
The 6 foot social distancing thing ties perfectly in with the contact tracing thing. Like, it's like weirdly complementary.
I think I saw that same video.
Right.
Or
so
something similar.
He said that the contact tracing thing works off Bluetooth, and people have to be 6 feet apart for it to work.
Otherwise, they get their signals confused.
Yeah, if you get too many people jumbled together, it doesn't work as well to identify specific signals coming from so-and-so and so-and-so. So it's almost like, and it all ties into the 5G thing too. Because they want like a grid network of people being 6 feet apart, attached to 5G, with these contact tracing apps on their phones that are working all the time, so that they can like perfectly map out people's movements, which is really spooky because the big data of that has all kinds of implications we won't get into, but it's a little freakishly coincidental how it's like, oh, make sure you're 6 feet apart, and oh, by the way, our apps work best at 6 feet apart, and if you were 4 or 3 feet apart, they wouldn't work as well, And if you were 8 feet apart, they wouldn't work as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's a little spooky, especially when you consider that Google and Apple are working together and making apps that communicate across their phones perfectly. When they never do that, that's a big no-no for them, because they're competitors, in big air quotes.
The greater good.
Yeah, it's like, come on, here's our one world government right here. When Apple and Google get in bed together with something, you know something's up.
Well, this year is checking all the boxes, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's amazing how much people have gotten used to in such a short amount of time. Because didn't this all just start in the US in January? Or was it February?
It was February and March when it really started to get wild out there.
Well, it was right before Easter, I think, that everything shut down, because I remember we watched the Easter message at home. I think we might have watched a sermon or two at home before that too. But it's amazing how quickly people accepted staying at home, wearing masks, staying 6 feet apart, don't go to these certain places. Oh, now there's riots, but it's all your fault.
Yeah,
and the riots are okay, even though you were told to stay home.
Right, that brings us neatly into our next point. That stupid healthcare recommendation that came out. The CDC and the Health and Human Services, they claim that if you're out there rioting, it's fine. But if you're not rioting, you still can't gather in groups more than 20, and you have to be 6 feet apart, and you have to shelter at home, and you have to wear your mask. But if you're out there...
Was it from the CDC? I thought it was just some random healthcare providers.
No, you're right. It was a panel of experts. That's right. A panel of experts submitted this, apparently, when you're in a protest with 1,000 people on the street, and the next guy next to you is like less than a foot apart, you're rubbing shoulders.
What they actually said was that it wasn't a health recommendation. It wasn't a health exception. It was that this is so important, the risk needs to be taken.
Oh, yes.
And they specifically said, but when it came to, I'm not quoting exactly, but they specifically said white protesters.
Wow,
with
really?
guns, yes.
Wow.
And they specifically mentioned, but what was the white protesters with guns? Well, that was totally different. That was scary, but this is too important.
The peaceful protests of BLM, yeah.
And you saw that horrifying video of all the nurses and doctors in their personal protective gear out clapping like a bunch of freaking seals as all these people went by just like self-congratulatory, like, oh, look at me.
All these protesters walked by without masks right next to each other.
Like half of them had no masks.
Yeah, we've been told just beat over the head this narrative in the past 2 or 3 months that we all have to stay away from each other, and there's signs on the floor at the grocery store for crying out loud, and everybody's got their little plexiglass windows up when you buy things, but now it's fine to rub shoulders with the guy next to you as long as you got your fist in the air and a big Black Lives Matter sign.
So
it basically completely invalidates the narrative of coronavirus altogether. You cannot believe it anymore. You can't honestly say that coronavirus is all that dangerous when your healthcare people are encouraging people to gather.
But there are people, especially people in our town, which is very liberal, who just, they believe everything they're told. Everything. They don't seem to be able to question.
If you believe both those narratives, you're believing a contradiction.
But they do. Liberals often do.
I don't get it.
I made a friend the other day who's very like-minded, finally. And we went for a walk, and half the people we passed on this path weren't wearing masks, but at one point we passed these two women who walked 6 feet apart as they passed us, and one of them had a mask on, the other one was holding the mask up to her nose and mouth. Like it was hanging without attached to her ears, and she held it to her face as we walked by.
Great.
And I just looked at my friend like, do you think she took that off the second we were past her? I was like, oh, definitely. And she just kind of laid her head in the stroller and just kind of knocked it there a few times because it was so stupid. We're out in the middle of the woods. We've been breathing for the last, entirely of the path. Our breath is probably still out there. But this woman's going to protect herself as she walks past us.
I had a guy ride by me on a motorcycle with a surgical mask on. No helmet. No helmet on a motorcycle.
How long do you suppose it is?
Surgical mask.
How long do you suppose it is? Or do you think some people already think it's just like in the atmosphere?
I don't know. And what's extra dumb about that is that it's gorgeous out. There's it's not cold. I can see wearing a mask on a motorcycle if it's cold. Your face gets cold.
Yeah.
But it was nice
cold
out
wind
today.
Down the throat doesn't feel
nice.
great.
It was nice today.
Yeah.
It was like 70 degrees and balmy, you know, like riding around with a surgical mask. Dumb.
Oh, there's something else about that. Surgical masks and all that. I can't remember.
I've collected a nice little collection of surgical masks. I actually threw one out today because people keep giving them to me. I go to these places and it's like, I didn't bring a mask. Oh, you probably should have one on. You got one? Because I didn't bring one. Oh, yeah, here you go.
Yeah, we've got one. I think it's covered in dirt from the stroller in the back of the car in case you need to go to Costco.
So I have my nice mask. I wore a mask before it was cool for my job.
So actually, someone told me the other day, our airlines here apparently require people to wear masks. Mm-hmm. But she told me her friend...
Not the small airline. The small one doesn't require it still.
Right, but a friend of a friend came in on Alaska Airlines, and apparently she didn't have to wear a mask because she told them she couldn't medically wear one, and no, she wasn't going to tell them because of HIPAA laws.
Mm-hmm. If I flew into the state from outside of the state, I would deliberately lie to them and say I came from within the state.
Well, they can look at your ticket history. They can look and see that.
I can throw my ticket out as soon as I get off the boat.
Oh, are you talking about the volunteers who sit there and go, where'd you come from?
I was at the airport the other night, and they have this huge, like, maze for people to walk through, and they have a desk where people sit at the arrivals, and they have papers they hand out where you have to declare your information, and they've completely redesigned they reinstalled new doors for the no man's land thing.
Do they have
I don't think so. I did not walk through it. But it's like, I'm pretty sure the doors open in such a way that it forces you to be apart from other people. I think that's so why it must have cost a fortune, that new door system. I don't think it's part of the remodel of the airport because they put it in right away.
Again, I think I said this last time. All this stuff went up so fast.
I wonder. I'm pretty sure I saw on a sign that it said it was mandatory that you had to like declare your information and then sign a form saying you're going to quarantine for 14 days or whatever. But can they even make it mandatory? Is that...
So now what they're doing...
I don't think they can. The state's open. You get here, you do what you want.
Well, so now what they're doing is that the city here it's bordering on just way overreach.
Yeah.
Now what they're making you do is they say, oh, well, if you don't want to do that, you can get tested either when you get here or before you arrive.
Yes.
And if you're negative...
Give us some of your DNA.
Yeah, and if you're negative, then you don't have to. But one person from out of state tested positive the other day, and it made news because they freaked out.
Oh, brother.
And now they have to quarantine for 10 days. What if you're here for business for 2 days?
The neighbor just arrived. They've been gone for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So they just arrived, and I chatted with her for just a moment, and I was like, so you're going to self-quarantine for the next 6 months? And she's like, yeah, we'll be inside. I'll be inside for 10 days waiting for the results of my test. And I said, I was walking away from her, so I wasn't really conversing, but I said, be bold. Don't do it. I just kept walking. I don't know if she heard me, but I hope so.
Yeah, everybody else is a bunch of rule followers. But it's just...
For anyone...
It's ridiculous.
For anyone wondering why we're so done with it, Dave Cullen, is that his name? Dave Cullen? The redhead guy on YouTube? Dave Cullen show?
I think so.
Computing Forever?
Yeah, Computing Forever.
That guy, he did a good breakdown on his most recent How Is This a Thing? That talks about the mask thing and how dumb it is that you should have to wear masks anymore. And he's totally done. There's so many people out there who are just done with the coronavirus. It's over with. That's what I tell people.
Also, I think it was the World Health Organization. I don't think it was the CDC. I think it was the World Health Organization came out the other day and said that studies show that asymptomatic people almost never spread viruses. At least this particular virus.
Oh, interesting.
And then they backtracked a little bit.
Of course.
Least she tried to backtrack it. Mm-hmm. But if you actually listen to what she said, she didn't. She just kind of talked around it.
Yeah.
And Del Bigtree talked about it. I didn't finish Highwire the other day. I want to because they had an interview, I believe, with a nurse who went undercover in what was supposed to be the hot zone and took some videos, I think. So I'd like like to finish watching that.
Yeah. So I've been telling people, hey, COVID is over with.
It really is.
It's done. Everything's done. I told the barber the other day, there's a barber who works in my building. I was like, can't you just be open now? Because he's still doing, he's got these, these suction cups with numbers on them. He sticks them to the window outside and people draw a number. And then he lets them in one by one. And, he unlocks the door and lets them in. And I'm like, aren't we... I work in, my office is at a mall location. Mm-hmm. I'm like, aren't we open? Can't they just come in? How come the door's still locked? How come you guys aren't open? Just let people in. Oh, and in his explanation, which I understand, he's got to keep his clientele. He has a lot of elderly clients. He's a barber. He's been there 30 years or something.
He's that old?
Yeah, he's an older dude.
Oh, I thought he was younger than that for some reason.
A guy with a big giant beard.
I've seen him in passing. I've never met him.
He must be he's at least in his 50s. I suspect he's a little older than that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe mid or late 50s. Yeah, he's an older fella. But he's been there a long time. He has had that location forever. He's like, well, older clientele, and they are scared, so we're just going to keep doing this. And I was like, that's super lame. COVID is over with. There's no need to do this crap anymore.
All it took was Black Lives Matter and Antifa setting the world on fire.
Yeah, I actually made a joke the other day to someone, and I was like, what did he say? I forget now even who I was talking to, but he was like, he made a joke about COVID, and I was like, if you take a sign and stand down on the street corner, there's no COVID anymore. He laughed.
Well, I've been wanting to get my hair trimmed, but I refuse to wear a mask, so that's not going to happen. I took some scissors to my hair today and kind of took off the ends. Pretty sure I butchered it.
No, you didn't.
No, thank you.
I was going to go, because I was doing that, but I look fine.
No, thanks.
I'm kind of running out of topics. What else we got?
We haven't talked about CHAZ.
Oh, that, yeah. So, let's talk about CHAZ.
Oh. I mean, it's just the dumbest name. I know it's an acronym, but
every time I see it, I think Chad. I think those are the
too.
furthest from Chad as I've ever seen.
Oh, I don't like that name.
So, CHAZ stands for Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone. It's a...
Furthest thing from autonomous?
Six is probably the closest to accurate I've heard, because there's differing numbers.
Is what I've heard.
Yeah, 6 blocks of Capitol Hill in Seattle has been
commandeered,
cordoned off, right? They basically have put concrete barriers in front of all the roads so nobody can drive through it, and declared it separate from the United States.
I think there's signs that say you're now leaving the United States.
Yeah, a bunch of their signs say that. So that's kind of their ethos.
Apparently it's being, it's under the control of a quote-unquote warlord who's a SoundCloud rapper who walks around with an AK-47 and a pistol.
Yeah.
And apparently he's beaten up some other people for not listening to him. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's surprising.
Super weird. And I keep seeing these... This is funny to me, but I keep seeing these pictures of, in big air quotes, a community garden that they started that they apparently are going to try and survive
People
off
are
of.
sitting around with their arms up like, gee, man, what do I do?
I saw a different picture of, I believe, a different one, and it's like they had a whole bunch of cardboard, and they spread it out, and they put potting soil on it, and then they just took plants that are still in the pot and just set them out there.
One can hope that that's the staging area.
I don't know. It looks really pathetic. All the plants are droopy and wilty. And
looks like our Fred Meyer when they just put the plants out and forget about them.
Exactly. It's really dumb.
And I guess they ran out of food on day 2.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, there were certainly a number of things about
I've seen an awful lot of tweets saying that that's not true.
I saw a bunch of stuff that said that they were asking for vegan meat alternatives.
Really?
And soy. And oats and anything people could bring.
Wow.
Somebody I know from my hometown on Facebook, older guy, shared a meme. It said, "Achievement unlocked, peak communism." Running out of food on day 2.
Bread lines. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And apparently people have been bringing them donations.
Of course they have.
To keep them afloat.
Yeah, of course.
And it just...
I wonder how long that's going to go on before people get sick of paying for them, though. You know what I mean? Like, it could go on a long time. Seattle's a huge city, and there's a ton of liberals there who are willing to give.
Well, that's what my cousin said. He's in Seattle with his wife. They're a long way away. They said that if they don't see a show of force, they're out of there. And he said they're going to start packing the same day if they get rid of the police force. And in fact, the next day I talked to him about it, and he said, no, we're definitely leaving, but we want to make it a transition, not a panic run.
Yeah.
So...
That just means they're going to panic run in slow motion.
Yeah, well, it seems as though the mayor just has no motivation to do anything.
Well, she's encouraging it.
Well, yeah. And she's calling it peaceful.
Yeah.
And she seems to see nothing wrong with armed people just taking over a block. And are they letting people in and out to go to work? There are homes in there, you know?
Yeah, I think they are. That's the thing. Like, why do they have armed guards, as it were, people walking around with guns, if you're allowed to just walk in and out? The armed guards are there to keep the police out.
Well, they did allow the police in, apparently, to look around what they'd done at the precinct. They trashed it, and they put a lot of gay crap in there.
Yeah.
This is one of those examples I was telling you about. The people they let in was a white woman, a black woman, and a black man, it looked like.
Yeah.
Like, they sent in their safe people, their safe officers.
Yeah.
And then they got kicked out, like, shortly after that. And they just walked away with their tails between their legs. No, I heard the other day that, big surprise, they're intimidating people, and they're extorting people, and they're raiding people within the 6 blocks.
Yeah, the optics around this thing are weird, though, because I'm really curious what the actual truth is, because the truth is so hard to find nowadays. You know what I mean? You can find equally as many oppositional tweets and reports as to whatever you find. It doesn't matter what you find, you can find the exact opposite elsewhere.
Yes, but you can make an educated guess that it's not what the left is saying. Because the left,
I suppose,
always says that they're being peaceful. They always say that they're out for the greater good.
But you can find tweets from the right who are like, oh, there's a warlord who's threatening people and they're robbing each other and then all their food got stolen. And then right in the exact same time frame, you can see these people who are like, oh, we took a walk down there yesterday or an hour ago, and they had a big spread of food and everyone's dancing.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
they're acting like it's a party.
I know, but that certainly doesn't sound like there's a warlord running around shooting his gun in the air threatening people.
Well, nobody ever said he was running around shooting his gun in the air.
I know. I'm being hyperbolic.
Well, you
know what I mean? Completely opposite.
Yeah, but...
So what's the truth?
Again,
I don't know.
Again, an educated guess is that these are a bunch of spoiled college kids, Antifa members, and Black Lives Matter activists who want life given to them on a silver platter.
Yes.
They are.
I can... Okay, I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to finish. Like, you can find plenty of articles and images that show, oh, they're having a big party, and people are bringing them donations, and they watched a nice video in the middle of the street that was all shut down, and they're just having lots of fun. But that's the problem, is they're acting like this is just so much fun, and we're all, taking our little country in the middle of a city where they're completely dependent on the city of Seattle for anything they need.
Right.
So it doesn't matter in the end if they are just being nice right now, because they're going to run out of crap, and then they are going to start looting each other. What?
It does matter, because if there isn't a warlord running around threatening people and aiming his guns at people...
Have you heard that there were
Then that means somebody is lying, and I want to know who is. You know what I mean? You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with it, because the left always claims they're being peaceful.
Right, well...
And they always cover up and lie for each other,
if this has the possibility to just go on and on and on and on indefinitely, just this little country surviving off of people's charity forever inside of Seattle, and whoever wants to just go and be a freeloader can, because there's so many leftists who have good paying jobs in Seattle, they'll just keep giving. You know what I mean? It's a really scary situation.
Well, and if there isn't rampant crime happening there right now, there will be, because
I think there probably will be, yeah.
I've heard that what was that Occupy thing that happened years ago?
Wall Street.
Apparently there was a lot of rapes and stuff that happened there.
Yeah.
And people are saying, well, this is definitely what's going to happen here.
I think so too.
But I'm certain that I've heard that people have actually said that they've seen the guy, like, threatening people, other people threatening people. There's a video somewhere of what seems to be a crazy homeless guy freaking out and saying, if you get in my face, I'll cut yours off or something.
Freaky homeless people say those things all the time.
Well, and apparently they have invited the homeless people in.
Unhoused.
Oh, sorry, unhoused.
How dare you?
Apparently they've invited them in
yeah.
to be part of their little community,
yep.
and to help patrol. And I also heard somewhere else that there was a huge spike in 911 calls within this area since this all happened. I don't recall where I heard that.
And all the cops that I know are there. So, this whole thing is interesting because I sent my brother a link when it first started, and I said, this is an interesting development. And his response was, the link I sent talked about how bad it was. Mm-hmm. And how it's Antifa. That was the crux, right? It was Antifa set up this little paramilitary, and they've chased the cops out, and they've claimed this chunk of Seattle as their own. That was the narrative on that one. And he's like, that's weird, because I just read this on Reddit, and it was like peaceable local gun club has decided to lend a hand to this little place that's been invaded by the evil police force. Completely different. What? Completely different narrative. And then
your brother who hates guns. Peaceable gun
he
club.
doesn't hate guns. And then in the same sitting, like as we're chatting about this, I'm scrolling through Twitter. I found one more that was different than those two, and it was this guy who was praising it, this like verified blue checkmark Twitter guy who was praising how awesome it was, and in the end he said something about like F you democracy, long live the revolution. Like,
yeah, you can find videos
totally making it sound like this incredible thing is happening and down with the U.S.,
well,
which is the third perspective, totally different than the one I first saw, and totally different than the one that he read. It was three totally different ideas on what is actually going on.
You'd have to be blind to think this is anything other than a revolution, because they have occupied a chunk of the United States and said, we're not part of you anymore.
Yeah,
they are domestic terrorists.
Yeah. It seems like exactly what all their college professors want them to do.
Yeah, and you can find videos. I don't know if it's the people within this area or other rioters, but you can find videos of these people wearing their masks like good little sheep, holding megaphones saying, this is a revolution.
Yeah,
shouting, this is a revolution.
Isn't that ironic?
Yeah.
We're going to start our own city-state inside the city of Seattle. That's not part of the U.S., but we're still going to do what the CDC and the WHO tell us to do, because coronavirus.
Well, they want a global government, you know?
Yeah.
And they have demands, I guess, about how they want all these, special things. They want the U.S. to do all these special things, even though they want to not be part of the U.S.
And the U.S., I hope they go, well, you're not paying us any taxes, so we don't have to do anything you tell us to do. What? You're not part of us anyway. You told us you weren't, so no.
Well, what I think needs to happen, and obviously it won't happen, is that they just need to take all the goodies away. They need to set up, police outside their barrier and keep people from bringing in stuff.
Yeah, set up a border.
They need to cut off water and power.
Yeah, if local charities want to want to contribute, then they have to set up the proper nonprofit organizations, which takes years and lots of lawyer fees in order to contribute to a country outside of the U.S. You know what I mean? Therefore, the local taco truck can't drive in there and give tacos away for free. He's going to have to, like, get some foreign trade agreement papers going so he can do business outside the U.S.
And
right? They should make it difficult.
Isn't Portland trying to do something similar right now?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the problem. You don't think that Trump should make a show of force.
No, I think that's just going to bring more people who are... lots of Republicans are pandering to the BLM thing.
So many. The Republicans apparently...
That's just going to anger more of them, and he's going to lose even more of his constituents.
I don't think so, because all those Republicans who are pandering, they hated him all along. They really did.
But he's going to lose... He's going to lose even the lesser of two evils argument. He's still going to lose.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I think that there are so many people who are just fed up with this is basically a national temper tantrum that's happening. I wouldn't even say national. It's a global temper tantrum, because if this was really about George Floyd, we wouldn't have protests in other countries.
Who?
Yeah.
Sorry.
You know? We wouldn't have protests in other countries that are run by blacks.
Yeah.
Where blacks don't have a problem. You know? So... this is clearly, it could be a spiritual plan.
Yeah.
It could be a plan made by man. But there's definitely a plan that's been put into motion, and it's happening right now. And I'm afraid that this is the start of the Civil War. I think the U.S. was a doomed experiment, you know?
Yeah. That's
and I think it's coming due.
For commentators, and I kind of have to agree that the U.S. is an interesting experiment that's doomed to fail, ultimately.
Well, I think when it was probably just a few colonies of people that were like-minded and from similar backgrounds, it was fine. But when
that's
they opened...
not the experiment. That's not the experiment.
Well, when they opened the floodgates, you know...
It's always been open, though.
No, it hasn't. There were periods of time when there was no immigration to the U.S., no legal immigration to the U.S. There have been many periods of time when people could not immigrate. We can find commentators easily talk about it. I'm sure Vincent James has talked about it and stuff.
Yeah.
But,
I think that if Trump chooses to use the military or whatever to dissolve the problem in Seattle, he's basically, unfortunately, this is what I'm afraid of, unfortunately, he'll be using the military to go against the state of Washington because they're for it. You know what I mean? And that's a problem.
I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing after a certain point. This is setting a precedent, you know?
It is a bad thing because then the federal government is going to be forced to use the military to basically stage a coup on one of its own states. And that's
not staging a coup. You could say the state of Washington is staging a coup.
Not necessarily.
Yeah, it is, because the state is supposed to manage this on its own, and if it can't, the federal government comes in.
Okay, well then you have the state of Washington against the federal government. That's what I'm saying. It's a problem.
It is a problem that the state of Washington. I mean, I guess it depends on what angle you come at it from, because I'm of the opinion that the states should all be free to make their own laws, enact their own laws, and, you know, take care of things on their own. If they can't, if you have, you know, insurrection happening, I think the federal government should be able to go in and stamp it out. If you have what is obviously let's say a foreign nation coming in and trying to take over from the inside of the state, I think then the federal government can come in and stamp that out.
Yeah.
I don't think that the federal government should, you know, go in and replace the standing government, you know. But the problem is that it seems to me that Seattle's just sitting back and saying, oh, okay, well, you can just dismantle us a little piece at a time. Because as I understand it, they're not even saying they're going to stop at these 6 blocks. They want to keep going.
Yeah.
You know, so...
There's a lot of Republicans in Washington and they own guns because their gun laws are not... They're not that tight. They're not New York tight and they're not California tight. You know what I mean?
my cousin said he was listening to a conservative commentator talking about that. Well, the conservatives need to rise up and do something. And what he said is that the problem is that there aren't that many. They've been voting these people in. They're standing back and they're letting people do things.
Yeah.
And I think in the end, a lot of people are comfortable and they think that things will work out in the end.
Well, that's why they need to make a new state. The one that combines, what's that, Idaho and Northern California? What were they going to call it? It has a fancy name. Were they going to, change the border so that Northern California belongs to Idaho? Mm-hmm. And it's like this weird, like, extra state they were going to make because there's lots of, apparently,
it was Oregon.
Right-leaning people
Oregon
in Northern California.
Wanted to split off.
And Idaho?
Maybe. I just recall last year reading an article about how part of Oregon wanted to break off and attach to another state because they were sick of what was happening.
Well, that'd be Idaho.
But I wasn't quite finished. I personally think that. Well, I don't know what the right decision would be for the Trump administration. I honestly don't think that. I'm not in either camp. I don't hate Trump and think he's the devil, but I also don't think that he's, got the sun shining out of his eyes.
That's where I am. I think that's probably the only place you really can be.
I think he was the only good option.
Yep.
At a bad time.
The lesser of two evils.
I think he's still the best option at this time.
Yeah.
The problem is that he's surrounded with a bunch of weaklings.
Of course he is. What's the other option?
And a bunch of centrists and a bunch of left-leaning people, and he wants to make people happy.
Yeah.
But I think that if he doesn't do something, if something isn't done, this sets a precedent that the states can stand back and let people burn and loot and stir up insurrection. How many other states? I mean, California has been doing it for years. We're not going to enforce federal immigration policy. Oh, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do that. It's setting a precedent that the states can do whatever they want when it comes to laws that should, for the moral good, be enforced.
Yeah.
So that's just where I'm standing. I don't know what the right decision is, but I don't think that standing back and letting it crash and burn on its own is necessarily the right thing, because I'm not convinced it is going to crash and burn on its own.
Yeah, it may not, and that's the scary thing about it.
I think that there are enough people out there to enable
bolster
this.
It, yeah. Yeah, I agree. When you get something like this happening in an extremely liberal, do what you want, be who you want to be type of area, then it could just grow and grow into this hulking, weird thing that has some scary capabilities.
I just had a completely different thought, so I'll bring it up when you're done.
I didn't have a monologue. That was all you.
Okay. Sorry. I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but I'm just... Ugh. The world has gone absolutely nuts.
Yeah,
and I think,
lots of weirdness happening right now.
I think Elijah Schaefer was right when he said this... We're in a video game now.
Yeah.
This isn't reality.
Yeah, I forget. Somebody had a Twitter post, and it was real. It was a real Twitter post. It wasn't parody or faked. And the first comment was, "Is this real life?" And I felt exactly the same way. Oh no, somebody said, "What timeline is this?"
Oh boy.
It's funny.
Yeah. But I was just thinking about all of the Orwellian stuff. We haven't even talked about all the statues. Statues are being toppled everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Stuff's being torn down. Columbus was beheaded, and so the city decided to take him down.
Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
He literally fought Nazis.
Yeah,
literally.
But he was a racist, apparently.
He should be their hero.
And it's not just happening here. That's the thing. It's happening in the UK too. The UK is...
That's what I was talking about. Winston Churchill.
Wasn't there
in
a
London,
statue of Lincoln in the UK?
Was there?
I thought I heard that. I've never heard that before, but
It wouldn't surprise me if there were.
Apparently they decided to tear down a statue of Lincoln. So they're destroying history everywhere.
Helped abolish slavery. That was what he's known for.
Not good enough, because he was a white man.
That's so dumb. Well, didn't you see that video probably not, this little tiny blurb where somebody was like, they were talking to these people who were going to tear down a statue, and you can hear it just quietly. One of the guys is like, honestly, I have no idea who this guy is.
Ugh. Well, yeah, it's one of those Orwellian things. They're tearing down history. Mm-hmm. They have no idea about history.
It's true.
They don't care about it. All they care about is that these people were part of the past, and the past is bad no matter what. Mm-hmm. And apparently, got another of them who thinks that you need to make babies comfortable before, you let them expire.
Yeah.
Apparently, he's just gonna go ahead and take down all the bad statues.
How objective of him.
And, yeah, you showed me that video of apparently them braining a protester as they pulled down a statue. They're like, oh yeah, this is so fun. Gunk.
Oh yeah, I guess that guy was in critical condition. It didn't kill him, but...
He's in a coma.
Is he? Okay. Yep. Yeah, darn near killed him. And he may even die yet. Shame on them.
I saw a bunch of people suggesting that those people should get charges, and I agree. They probably won't, though.
No, probably not.
And if they do, then we know that the good-hearted celebrities in their, gated communities with their armed security and their $1 million security systems, they're going to bail them out.
Oh, probably. Yeah. The bailout funds. So dumb. Support the cause. Donate to bailout funds. Did you see that when you donate to Black Lives Matter, it donates to a site that handles all the Democrats' transactions?
No.
The DNC.
Of course.
It's this, I forget what it's called. Something blue, of course. Mm-hmm. Open Blue or Action Blue, something like that. Some money handler site, but BLM uses it, and it's a Democrat money handling site. It's the same thing when you donate to Joe Biden's campaign. That's the site that uses it.
Of course.
Come on now.
They're taking their little bit off the top. It's hard to believe it's come to this. And in the same vein, apparently some black woman lost a debate with someone because she used the wrong definition of the word racism. Like, the person was literally using the proper definition from the dictionary, and she got mad because she lost because of that. So she wrote to the dictionary, and they're going to change it for her.
Yeah.
To include, all the...
systemic racism.
All the progressive talking points.
Yep.
So now, they're changing the meaning of words, not just, on Google or in classrooms, but in the dictionary.
Yeah.
To the point that you're not going to be able to win these arguments anymore because they can pull up the dictionary and it will be there. Yeah.
Well, are you talked out? You got kind of wound up. That coffee's really zinging through your veins.
No. Oh, we haven't talked about any of these things. A whole lot's happened.
Yeah.
Including the Democrats all getting on their knees.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. I think we're done. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. We covered a few of the notes. There was something in here about an asteroid that's taller than the Empire State Building almost hitting us. But that's all there is. That's all there is to say. We all almost got vaporized by an asteroid.
Will that one happen?
I don't know.
No. The aliens are coming.
Whatever.
The alien deception is coming. They're going to save us all from racism and World War III.
Yeah. They're coming, and they're going to save us all. And you'll just have to take a little mark on your hand or your forehead in order to do shopping. Yeah. But that's okay, because you can go to the CHAZ, and they'll have their little garden, and you won't have to take the mark to do transactions there, because they just give you food for free. And
yeah, right. They're all going to line up first thing.
Never mind the guy who leads it is a warlord, in air quotes, that looks like something out of Far Cry.
I was telling you,
he looks like a Far Cry villain, doesn't he? With his AK and his big chain and.
I don't know if I've actually seen the picture of the guy up close. But I was telling you, I wonder how many of these people grew up watching Walking Dead and stuff like that, so they're all primed and excited for the tribalism and making the little communities and gunning down people who try and steal their stuff. I think a lot of people are probably just like, this is so exciting, this is so fun, this is like watching a show or playing a video game, when really they don't understand how hard it's going to actually be, and they're on the wrong side of history.
Yep. I don't know. we'll see. The end of the world is coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming soon. Go talk to Jesus. He's the only one that can save you.
Yep.
That's it. That's the episode. Turn it off. We're all done.
Okay.
It's like an hour-long podcast. And that's me subtracting 13 minutes because of pauses and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
You all done?
Mm-hmm.
Final points?
Nope.
Major points?
Oh, actually, what about that?
Oh, boy. Here we go.
What about that article we read earlier about Christianity Today saying that we all need to pay reparations?
Oh, that's just Christianity Today being a leftist rag like they've always been.
Well, it's disappointing to see that there are a number of professing Christians who think that we need to all confess and wash the feet of black people and apologize for...
I'm gonna put a humongous a humongous spotlight on our roof, and I'm gonna put the word virtue on it, and I'm just gonna beam it at the clouds every night.
Okay.
So that everyone knows that I have virtue.
Kinda
that
like
I'm on their side. I'm
like
an ally.
The person by the highway who got the big Christmas lights that said recall, so we'd all know they're a Dunleavy hater.
That's right. That's right. And I'm gonna have little like slots I can put on it. I'm gonna put BLM on it one night. I'm gonna put LGBTQAI, all the letters. I'm gonna put all the letters on there, and the next night, everyone on the block is gonna know my values.
And we're gonna get them all out there clapping every night.
Yeah, every night we're gonna come out and clap. At 8 p.m. or whatever they do in Britain. It's going to be amazing. I'm excited.
And we're going to report them if they don't.
That's right. We're going to start reporting people who aren't social distancing and aren't wearing masks. And we're going to get plain white t-shirts that have some pithy slogan on the front that is affirming of whatever movement is going on. Everyone will know.
Okay.
There it is. That's the episode. Thanks for listening, everyone. Find us on Twitter at Hinterlands Feed. Find us on YouTube, even though that's hit or miss. There's a few episodes there. And
I think YouTube's censoring us.
Bad. I'm lazy at uploading them, blah, blah, blah.
Our last podcast literally did not go to YouTube.
I know. It should have gone up automatically, and it didn't, so I don't know what's going on there. But anyway, here we are. Hopefully, there's still people out there listening. Hi, audience. Sorry we don't post very often.
Stuff going on.
We got stuff going on.
It's crazy.
Find Hinterland's Story Hour. We're going to do a new episode of that. Probably not tonight. It's really late and I'm tired. But we have a great episode coming. We just need to record the darn thing. But yeah, find the other 4 or 5 episodes of that. Hinterland Story Hour. Do it. It's all about stories. It's story review. Very lightweight. No politics necessarily. Okay, thanks. That's it. Bye.
Bye.